Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CMN Chats. My name is Alexa Sandler. I am a senior PRAD major as well as a digital content assistant within the College of Communication. I'm so excited for this episode with my dear friend, Niki Sasiela.
Hi, Alexa.
Hi, Niki.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Niki Sasiela. I am a senior at DePaul University with a double major in public relations and advertising, as well as media and communication studies. I'm originally from a small town in Michigan, came to Chicago 4 years ago, and I've been passionate about learning more about the ad industry as well as the nonprofit industry, and hope to continue my work in that field in a couple of months when graduation comes about.
How did you go about choosing PRAD as your major?
Yeah, so I came actually to DePaul undecided. I knew that I wanted to be in the College of Communication, just because a lot of my interests aligned with many of the majors within the college. I then took a class with Ken Crimstein, who has been a really great professor and mentor for me my sophomore year of college. And through that, he just kind of sold me on the major of advertising. And I've been really involved within the major as well as the college ever since. So it was just kind of fell into the right place at the right time, and I've loved it ever since.
Is there a favorite PRAD course that you've taken throughout your time in the College of Communication?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the most memorable class that I've taken definitely had to be my creativity portfolio advertising class, which was a study abroad trip. So that included creating 3 campaigns for 3 multicultural clients in Europe, and being in Europe for 3 weeks. We were in Cannes, France, Amsterdam, as well as Barcelona. It was just not only a class where I learned a lot about like how to build a campaign, but I also made really great memories and relationships with students and professors in the college, and that has definitely stuck with me throughout these 4 years.
We will get to more on that study abroad trip later in the chat. But you were also involved with the Ad Society. You were a former president. Tell us a little bit more about the Ad Society.
Yes, so last year I was the president of the Ad Society. I'd been involved with the Ad Society, which is DePaul's advertising organization here on campus, ever since my sophomore year, once I was introduced to the major of advertising. So really it's just a collective organization of like-minded students who are interested in the advertising industry, where we have professional development workshops, whether it be resume building, portfolio workshops, networking opportunities with students in the college, as well as industry professionals. So it's really giving students that hands-on real-world experience that you might not get in the classroom. We also had organized agency visits with companies in Chicago. We visited Facebook, Ogilvy, a bunch of different agencies and businesses. So it was really just a way to not only build relationships with students, but also give that hands-on experience to students that are interested in the ad industry.
I know you're not involved as far as the e-board right now, but what's their plan sort of looking like going forward, especially in relation to COVID?
Yes, so the e-board is still up and running. The organization is still up and running. We have a lovely e-board of 5 people. Anastasia is the new president, who's been doing a great job at transitioning virtually. So they've actually started a podcast series where they're interviewing different people within the industry, getting their insights. That's available on Spotify and Apple Music, I believe. You can also check out their Instagram, which is at the Ad Society DePaul. They also had bi-weekly meetings where they cover different topics via Zoom. So the other day they had how to build a side hustle. So it's just a really great way to get involved and meet other students on campus. So they're still active, still doing great work here virtually.
You also work on campus. How are you able to balance your coursework, your job, and balancing having a work-life balance? How has that been in general, and especially with COVID, having classes being remote?
Yes, so I also have an on-campus position. I work in DePaul's Office of Student Involvement, where I'm a social media and programmer. So I help run their social media and develop now virtual events for students here on campus, like Welcome Week and the Involvement Fair, and organizing all that stuff. So I've been working with them since my sophomore year, and having the transition of going remote was a bit stressful at first. It was uncertain. No one knew what the future was going to look like. But it's been really great to have that support system there because we are kind of like a mini family. And we've been able to create some really interesting and engaging events for students. We do virtual bingo where we give out prizes, virtual trivia. We have live concerts. So it's been a really great way to not only get involved on campus, but again, like build a small family. And I really highly recommend that any student checks out the on-campus positions. They're posted pretty regularly and updated pretty regularly. And they're really accommodating in regards to helping you if you feel overwhelmed with your class schedule, and they give you a great experience to put on your resume. So yeah.
How has some of your PRAD coursework and things that you've learned taking classes in the College of Communication helped you with that role or any other internship roles that you've had throughout your time at DePaul?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my other outside experiences, I've had a couple of internships throughout my 4 years here. And it really was through the help of the College of Communication that I was able to secure those positions. Dr. Juan Mundel, who will be on this episode later, spoiler alert, but he was able to help me secure my first position as a freshman, moving back to Michigan. And I was able to do some community development internships through that. So really, they helped me build connections with a lot of people in the industry to get like that first foot in the door and then start conversations, which is what I really appreciate about DePaul as an organization. The amount of professors and students that have all these connections within Chicago and outside of Chicago can really help you to just get your foot in the door and have amazing experiences that can impact you for years to come.
Yeah, so I agree with you that one of the biggest draws, at least for DePaul, especially within the College of Communication, is most of the professors are actually still working or have had industry experience or experience in whatever particular field that they're instructing in. And that really aids in their ability to teach and for you to learn as an individual and build the connections with those professors that will go outside of the classroom and even beyond when you graduate as well.
Absolutely.
And speaking of graduation, you're graduating soon, much like me. Is there a particular memory from your time at DePaul that will, you never forget as you're graduating coming up in March?
I mean, again, it definitely has to be that study abroad experience that I had. Those 3 weeks in Europe are going to stay with me as just a memory within my life that I'm going to remember. I've also had some other experiences. I went to New York also, which was through DePaul's College of Communication 2 years ago, where I got to spend a week in New York visiting ad agencies and networking and building relationships there. And it really is those experiences where I went outside of the classroom with the help of the College of Communication that form memories and relationships that I'm going to remember for years to come outside of the course. I've also did another trip that was through DePaul's VIA team, which was a service immersion trip that was based on doing community service within a different city for a week. And I went to Denver, Colorado last year. And that was a really life-changing experience that helped me solidify that I want to focus my work within the nonprofit agencies and sector of advertising. So it's really about being open to those experiences. Of course, you're going to learn so much within the classroom and build relationships within the courses that you take throughout your 4 years. But it's really about being open and exploring outside of that, where you can apply the skills and the relationships that you have to grow even more and even further to help you throughout your 4 years, because that's what college is all about, like having experiences and taking it in to help you post-graduation. So
Yes, totally. The experience is what college is all about.
yeah.
And as you mentioned before, we have a special guest joining us today, both of our favorite professors ever, Juan Mundel.
Hi, guys. Thank you
Hello.
for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show.
Great to see both of you. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I just got to hear Niki talking about the importance of networking outside of your comfort zone. And I think those are amazing memories that any student can definitely cherish.
Before we get into it, Juan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Argentina. I've worked in the industry both in public relations and in advertising. And then I came back to higher education because I actually really like working with people like you guys, and it allows me to have a positive impact rather than just focusing on making someone else in the industry richer. So I actually really enjoy to work as a professor.
So one of the things I want to talk to both of you guys about today is MeLab. You guys have both been involved with MeLab for a little bit. So can both of you tell us a little bit more about what MeLab is?
Yeah, I'll start and then we'll have Niki take the student perspective. But the MeLab was a passion project that we started when I joined DePaul with Dr. Nur Wiesel. And it's a collaborative space for both faculty and students who are interested in doing research together to try to understand how audiences connect with media and mediated messages in general. So we meet now on a bi-weekly basis because of the COVID pandemic, but normally we meet on a weekly basis to discuss different projects and train students on how to apply market research into their own careers.
Yeah, so for me, I got involved with the MeLab around 3 years ago, and like Dr. Mundel mentioned, it's a really great way to apply the skills that you're learning in the classroom to real world experiences. So within that time, I've been able to physically conduct primary research for studies that professors are engaging with clients or for their own personal projects, as well as do secondary research. So it's an opportunity to really, again, apply the skills that you're learning in the classroom. And it looks pretty great on your resume as an undergrad to have that experience of actually working with clients within the world of advertising.
On top of that, what are some of the research projects that you guys have done or have coming up in the future?
Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff that is going on now in the lab. Even with the pandemic ongoing, we keep meeting virtually and we have a number of studies that are ongoing. One of the clients that we've been working with is actually the Department of Plant and Soil at Michigan State, who hired us to try to develop advertisements that connect better with people that purchase plants. So our client identified that when it comes to advertising plant products, normally when there is an endorser in the advertisement, it's normally women and normally older white women in particular. So as plants keep growing in interest in social media, there's more millennials, for example, that are looking at buying plants, which is a shift from a couple of years ago. Now the marketers are trying to understand how to connect better with this audience, and as you know, millennials are one of the most diverse generations ever. So what we did was shoot advertisements with different minorities. So we had not only white consumers posing as endorsers, but also we had African American, Latino, and Asian women as well in the ads. And now we're trying to understand which of those produce a higher purchase intentions for plants products among millennials. We also use different age cohorts. So we had someone in the millennial generation. There was also someone they're mid-age, and there were also older adults posing with plants, and we're trying to understand which one works better. But in addition to that, we're also now developing a number of comprehensive studies that try to understand how the legalization of marijuana products in the state of Illinois can also lead to the adoption of different basic marketing principles such as branding and packaging and promotion, and how that helps people destigmatize a product that for many years was considered to be a sin product. So at the moment, we have 4 studies that came out of this idea. One has to do with interviewing students, and that one is ongoing. Actually, I think both of you are involved in that study in the qualitative part. We're also doing a survey of 500 US consumers to understand how branded or unbranded products affect purchase intention. And in addition, Dr. Hye-Jin Kim collected data from Twitter to understand how the social media conversation around marijuana products is happening. And once the lab opens back again, we're going to triangulate those findings with psychophysiology. That pretty much means how your body reacts to these marketing messages. But in addition to that, Niki and I worked together on a couple of really interesting studies. We have an article that is now being about to be published in a journal, and maybe Niki should tell a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we have a couple projects. So one project that we were working on for a while had to do with fast food advertising. We have another project that we were doing involving LGBTQ representation advertising in relation to drag queens and drag performers in advertising. I know in the past also some alumni got the opportunity to do some research in regards to Instagram branding with fashion and had the opportunity to present that work physically in Paris as well as other conferences. So like Dr. Mundel was going into really in depth about what the projects that are going on. There's always a way to get involved with these projects. Even if you feel like you're not prepared to do it, but there's always a way to learn and develop in order to have these wonderful opportunities.
I know, Juan, you've been published in many journals for research, but Niki, this is your first one to, have an official academic paper. How does that feel?
It's kind of crazy. I mean, you read all these journal articles within classes, and to like have that possibly be in the future is a really cool, interesting idea. It's also put a thought in my head of possibly continuing on my education and maybe becoming a professor like Dr. Mundel. So it's just a really great opportunity. And like I mentioned before, DePaul and the College of Communication is so great at offering these opportunities for students that can help maybe decide what you want to do in the future.
Thank you. You talked about it earlier, but although study abroad is looking different because of COVID, I really want to talk about the trip that the three of us got to go on last summer. The France, Netherlands, and Spain International Advertising, Creativity, and Portfolio Building Abroad trip. Niki, how was that? I know you touched a little bit on it earlier, but how was that experience for you as a student as far as, that just the experience in general, traveling to Europe, but also as far as building your advertising portfolio?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, that trip has probably been the highlight of my 4 years at DePaul for many reasons. Like I mentioned, it was a great opportunity to build relationships with other students and professors and have that time to be in Europe for 3 weeks was just a blessing. It was really awesome. The opportunities is to go to the Cannes Lion Festival of Creativity, which is just a week-long festivals where brands are there presenting their work, and you have the opportunity to network with people all across the world, which is something that not many people have the chance to do. And again, it was also a really great opportunity to build my portfolio, and having the experience to create actual fully fledged campaigns within those 3 weeks with international clients is definitely something that has helped me learn more about the industry and is pieces of work that really stand out within my portfolio. So I'm just really grateful for those 3 weeks. It was a real big highlight of my 4 years here. So
me too, for sure. Juan, I know that wasn't the first time that you went on that trip, but how has that, being on part of that experience been for you as a professor?
I absolutely love doing study abroad. First of all, of course, we had an amazing time sharing together those experiences, and that's one of the highlights. During the academic year, there's so much going on the students' academic lives and professional lives that it's hard to connect on a deeper level outside of class time. When you're on study abroad, you're constantly engaging with other people, and you're constantly hanging out and going for dinner or lunch and having conversations not only about the industry but also about cultural differences. So it really allows you to connect with students on a more personal level, and I really like that. But in addition to that, study abroad is important for many reasons. One is the fact that when you are not exposed, for example, to other cultures, we tend to assume that our way of doing things is the only way around getting to an objective. And specifically when it comes to marketing communications, there's a really big dominance of the US culture when it comes to agencies, and how we think and approach advertising is normally driven very much by US ideas and strategies. So when we go abroad and we get to see how other countries are, for example, approaching advertising, it's impressive because there are things that here, for example, could be considered taboo that are not considered to be offensive or maybe frowned upon, like, for example, sexualization of French advertisements, or even in the Netherlands. So it's a really good opportunity for us to really get out of our shell. But in addition to that, I also see every time that we do this trip, what I see is that your ideas of what is expected of you in the industry go from maybe a 20 to 100. And it's really important for students to really get a sense of, like, how difficult it is to really produce a full-fledged advertising campaign, and how difficult it is for that campaign to actually be noticed, not only by consumers, but also by the media. It's not so simple to get to an award-winning campaign. And when you are exposed to that level of creativity and that level of scrutiny, I think that students really end up upping their game a lot more, because they realize that there's going to be a lot more expectations than perhaps what I would expect from you in an assignment for class. So it's a multi-pronged benefit for students, but also for faculty as well. It's a really good opportunity for us to be in touch with leaders. We get to hear what they're saying, where they want the future leaders to go as well. So not only do we get to experience that for ourselves, but we bring those experiences back into the classroom, and we keep updating our game so that we can serve our students better.
How can like an immersive experience like study abroad, especially having that international experience, really impact students' career goals and moving forward in their time at DePaul and beyond?
I think, when we go on those trips, first of all, one of the magic things is that many of you get offers to either, like, network for an internship, or to work as a freelancer, or now with the age of social media, many people get gigs where they can become influencers or some sort of endorsers for brands. And that's, like, a really good step for building your career forward. But I would say that in addition, it also opens up the idea that you don't necessarily have to stay in the US to work. There's many places that you could potentially end up in which perhaps your skills are going to stand up a little bit more, because the pool of applicants, for example, that is applying for jobs in Spain is not the same as someone that is coming from the US. So many times students, like, get to ask, what would it take for me to be able to get an offer and to move into this country? And, it's a impressive amount of networking that happens within those 3 weeks. And whether or not people pursue those opportunities is then up to the student, but the opportunities definitely do present themselves.
Niki, did you want to say anything to that question as well?
I was just going to follow up and be like, yeah, I agree. It definitely plants the seed, as I said again, like, of having that idea that maybe you can establish a career overseas or abroad. And from a student's perspective, it's totally right. And I've had those thoughts too. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but I would also say, specifically for advertising and public relations, there's a wave of consolidation of agencies abroad, where they become multinational agencies. So today, even if you're working, for example, for Leo Burnett here in Chicago, there's a really high chance that part of your account is being managed somewhere else, or that you're producing, for example, some of the ads or some of the content, but specific advertisements for that specific campaign are produced, for example, in Amsterdam by a completely different team. So having the international skills to be able to understand how other people think or feel or evaluate the work puts you miles ahead of many other programs in which there's not much attention paid to internationalization.
Yeah. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you both today. If there's anything else you want to add before we wrap up this?
I think that's it, but I'm really thankful for you guys. It's been great getting to know you and sharing your experience here at DePaul, and thank you for giving me a space in this conversation today.
Yeah, again, thank you, Alexa, for having us. And I guess the final words are just for anyone that's watching or any student that's thinking about coming to DePaul, just be open to all the experiences, ask a bunch of questions, and you never know what can happen. So,
well, thank you both for being a part of this. Wish you guys best. Make sure it had a little bit of an internet glitch at the end of the recording. So I just want to say thank you again to Juan and Niki for being on the episode, and make sure that you all tune in and continue to tune in to future episodes of CMN Chats. Thanks so much.